When my parents threw me out at 17 for being pregnant, I thought that humiliation would be the last time they'd ever get to decide who I was. I remember the sound of the door slamming, the cold air cutting through my jacket, and my mother's voice echoing behind it. "You made your bed, Caitlin. Now lie in it." That night, I slept in the back of a bus station, clutching my stomach and whispering apologies to the tiny life inside me. 29 years later, I was standing in the lobby of Cascadia Medical Center, watching my son's name flash across the news ticker. Dr. Everest Beaumont performs life-saving cardiac surgery, when I saw their faces again. They were older, stiffer, but those same eyes, calculating and cold, pinned me from across the marble floor. The tablet in my hand nearly slipped when I realized the photo attached to the article wasn't just of my son, it was of all three of us, cropped from a gala years ago. They'd found us. They'd found me. If you're enjoying this, please subscribe and share. Your support keeps the stories coming. My name is Aurora Beaumont now, a name built from ashes. No one in Seattle knew that the daughter of the disgraced Grays once begged for food behind a diner. No one knew about the philanthropist who found me, Agatha Beaumont, a widow with the patience of a saint and the spine of steel. She gave me a roof, a name, and a map out of hell. When she died, she left me the foundation that now bears her name. I'd spent years hiding, not from danger, but from recognition, because one headline with Caitlin Gray on it could pull them back into my life. And now, here they were, standing 10 feet away like ghosts who'd remembered the way home. "Caitlin?" My mother's voice cracked with practiced tenderness. "Sweetheart, it's us." I turned slowly, measuring the tremor in my hands before they could see it. "Don't call me that," I said. "That girl doesn't exist anymore." My father gave a strained laugh. "Oh, come now, don't be dramatic. We've missed you. We just want to be part of your life again, especially now that our grandson is famous." The word felt like poison. Grandson. They disowned me before he ever breathed. They didn't deserve his name on their tongues. "You threw me away," I said, my voice sharper than I intended, "and you don't get to rewrite that story now." They exchanged a look I knew too well, the look of people deciding how to manipulate a situation. My mother stepped closer, perfume suffocating. "Darling, we were wrong, we admit that, but it's time to let the past rest. Family should be united, especially in the public eye. The foundation could use some positive attention, couldn't it?" That's when I understood their angle. Gray and Fox Holdings, their company, had been drowning in legal trouble, fraud, mismanagement, insider trading. Their name had become a curse on Wall Street. And now, by crawling back to me, by posing beside the successful daughter they'd discarded, they could bleach their sins in my light. I smiled tightly, the way I do in boardrooms before a negotiation turns bloody. "You should leave before I call security." My father's charm cracked. "Aurora, don't be foolish. You owe us that much. We gave you life." I wanted to laugh, and you tried to take it back. They stiffened. My mother's fingers trembled, but her eyes glittered. "You can't hide behind that fake name forever, Caitlin. The world will know where you came from." I leaned in, lowering my voice until she could feel the heat of it. "You think that scares me? Agatha taught me how to build an empire from nothing. You can't shame someone who already crawled through dirt." For a second, silence stretched between us, thick with everything we'd never said. Then my son's voice cut through it. "Mom?" Everest was standing by the reception desk, tall and calm in his scrubs, the kind of man they'd sworn I'd never raise. His eyes moved from me to them, confusion flickering. "What's going on?" My mother instantly shifted tone, performing warmth so smooth it made my skin crawl. "Everest," she said, "we're your grandparents." The word hit me like glass. He blinked, searching my face for confirmation. I saw the question forming, the one I'd hoped he'd never have to ask. "Grandparents?" he repeated. I stepped between them before she could touch him. "You're mistaken," I said. "They're no one to us." My father's voice rose, commanding, the way it had when I was a child. "We are your family, boy. Don't let her poison you against us." Something inside me snapped. 29 years of silence and restraint erupted in one breath. "Family?" I said, turning on him. You called me filth. You said I was dead to you. You let me rot while I carried your grandson. Every word trembled with fury I'd buried decades ago. The lobby had gone quiet, the nurses frozen, a few phones recording behind potted plants. My mother's expression didn't crack. She was already recalculating angles. Aurora, you're being emotional. You've always had a tendency to overreact. I felt Everest's hand brush my shoulder, steadying me. Mom, what is this? He asked softly. I forced myself to breathe. These are the people who threw me out when I was your age, the ones who said you should never be born. Gasps rippled around us. My father's jaw tightened. We made mistakes, he said, but the world loves a redemption story. Let us fix this together. There it was, their real offer, sugar-coated in regret. They wanted redemption. They wanted my son's fame and my foundation's prestige to wash their names clean. I smiled tightly, the way I do in boardrooms before a negotiation turns bloody. You should leave before I call security. My father's charm cracked. Aurora, don't be foolish. You owe us that much. We gave you life. I wanted to laugh, and you tried to take it back. They stiffened. My mother's fingers trembled, but her eyes glittered. You can't hide behind that fake name forever, Caitlin. The world will know where you came from. I leaned in, lowering my voice until she could feel the heat of it. You think that scares me? Agatha taught me how to build an empire from nothing. You can't shame someone who already crawled through dirt. For a second, silence stretched between us, thick with everything we'd never said. Then my son's voice cut through it. Mom? Everest was standing by the reception desk, tall and calm in his scrubs, the kind of man they'd sworn I'd never raise. His eyes moved from me to them, confusion flickering. What's going on? My mother instantly shifted tone, performing warmth so smooth it made my skin crawl. Everest, she said, we're your grandparents. The word hit me like glass. He blinked, searching my face for confirmation. I saw the question forming, the one I'd hoped he'd never have to ask. Grandparents? He repeated. I stepped between them before she could touch him. You're mistaken, I said. They're no one to us. My father's voice rose, commanding, the way it had when I was a child. We are your family, boy. Don't let her poison you against us. Something inside me snapped. 29 years of silence and restraint erupted in one breath. Family? I said, turning on him. You called me filth. You said I was dead to you. You let me rot while I carried your grandson. Every word trembled with fury I'd buried decades ago. The lobby had gone quiet, the nurses frozen, a few phones recording behind potted plants. My mother's expression didn't crack. She was already recalculating angles. Aurora, you're being emotional. You've always had a tendency to overreact. I felt Everest's hand brush my shoulder, steadying me. Mom, what is this? He asked softly. I forced myself to breathe. These are the people who threw me out when I was your age, the ones who said you should never be born. Gasps rippled around us. My father's jaw tightened. We made mistakes, he said, but the world loves a redemption story. Let us fix this together. There it was, their real offer, sugar-coated in regret. They wanted redemption. They wanted my son's fame and my foundation's prestige to wash their names clean. I smiled tightly, the way I do in boardrooms before a negotiation turns bloody. You should leave before I call security. My father's charm cracked. Aurora, don't be foolish. You owe us that much. We gave you life. I wanted to laugh, and you tried to take it back. They stiffened. My mother's fingers trembled, but her eyes glittered. You can't hide behind that fake name forever, Caitlin. The world will know where you came from. I leaned in, lowering my voice until she could feel the heat of it. You think that scares me? Agatha taught me how to build an empire from nothing. You can't shame someone who already crawled through dirt. For a second, silence stretched between us, thick with everything we'd never said. Then my son's voice cut through it. Mom? That night, after he'd gone back to his shift, I sat alone in my office with the city lights pressing against the glass. My hands trembled as I opened the old wooden box Agatha had left me, the one I'd promised never to touch unless I was in danger. Inside were documents, the adoption papers, bank records, even surveillance photos she'd kept of the Grays trying to track me years ago. She knew this day would come. At the bottom lay a sealed envelope with Agatha's handwriting, for when the past tries to claim what it never earned. My throat tightened as I slid the letter out. Agatha's words spilled across the page, calm and deliberate. She told me that love wasn't weakness, that the power to forgive didn't mean letting them back in, and that truth, once exposed, was the only weapon that couldn't be stolen. By the time I finished reading, I knew what I had to do. My parents wanted a story. I'd give them one they'd never recover from. I'd show the world exactly what kind of people they were. I called Nolan Pierce, our family lawyer, and said 6 words that made him fall silent before agreeing to meet at dawn. It's time to open the Beaumont file. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window, watching the rain hit the city, feeling 17 again, but stronger, colder, sharper. They had started this game, but I was going to finish it. And as the first light crept over the horizon, my phone buzzed with a news alert that made my blood run cold. Gray & Fox Holdings denies allegations, claims a strange daughter staging smear campaign. They'd already made their move. The headline glared from my phone like a personal attack, each word calculated to wound. A strange daughter fabricates abuse claims amid corporate scandal. There it was, the same strategy they'd always used. Deny, discredit, destroy. For a moment, I just stared, numb, the familiar cocktail of rage and disbelief burning through me. They were doing it again, trying to turn me into the liar, the unstable one. Only this time, I wasn't the frightened girl who had nowhere to go. I was Aurora Beaumont, CEO, philanthropist, mother of a doctor whose name was shining across the nation. But even power can tremble under the weight of old fear. The internet was already buzzing, speculation spreading faster than truth could chase it. Their PR team was feeding reporters half-truths, painting a story of loving parents betrayed by their greedy daughter. My face appeared beside words like ungrateful, opportunistic, unstable. It shouldn't have mattered, but it did. It was like they had reached through the screen and pulled me back into their control. I spent the night pacing the office, replaying every interview, every article that mentioned Everest, wondering how to shield him from the blast radius. At dawn, Nolan arrived, coat soaked with rain, eyes sharp with the same anger I felt. "They think they can scare you," he said, dropping a folder on my desk. "But they underestimated Agatha. She left you armor." Inside were the original adoption records, sealed under new federal privacy laws, the kind of paperwork that erased the Grays' legal rights completely. There were even surveillance photos Agatha had commissioned years earlier, images of Martin meeting with private investigators, tracking me and the baby. "We can bury them with this," Nolan said, "if you're ready." Ready. I'd been waiting 29 years for that word. But I knew we needed more than documents. My parents had money, influence, and a public image crafted over decades. Facts alone wouldn't break them. Exposure would. I spent the next 2 days assembling everything Agatha had built for me, the Foundation's press network, our legal department, and a list of journalists she trusted. One name stood out, Elena Cross, an investigative reporter who'd once written an exposé on Agatha's fight against corporate corruption. When I called her, she remembered me immediately. "Aurora Beaumont," she said, her voice curious. "Agatha's protégé. What's going on?" I told her everything. The disownment, the reappearance, the manipulation, the false narrative. When I finished, there was silence, then a soft whistle. "That's a hell of a story," she said, "and I believe you. But if we do this, we do it right. On record, evidence, dates, witnesses. Are you ready for that kind of war?" I hesitated only a second. I've been ready since I was 17. We met in secret at the Beaumont Foundation late that night. The rain had returned, streaking the glass walls as we spread documents across the table. Letters, photos, medical records, financial statements proving payments between my parents' company and Tyler Quinn, the man who'd abandoned me all those years ago. They paid him to contact you again, a sympathy angle, to make you look manipulative when he forgives you publicly. My stomach turned. Tyler's name was a wound I thought had healed. He'd vanished before Everest was born, taking what little hope I had left with him. And now he was part of their plan. I traced the signature at the bottom of a payment receipt, the ink slightly smudged. They always use other people to do their dirty work. Elena leaned forward. Then let's make sure the world sees their fingerprints all over it. We spent hours crafting a timeline, cross-referencing emails, matching phone logs to news releases. It felt like surgery, precise, merciless, necessary. By dawn, I sent the file to 3 trusted sources with a single line: "The truth is not for sale." Within 12 hours, the story broke. Gray & Fox Holdings CEO accused of manipulating daughter's family for PR rehabilitation. The article exploded across every feed, accompanied by evidence too detailed to ignore. Photos of my parents shaking hands with Tyler, documents proving hush payments, screenshots of internal memos about narrative repair. I watched it unfold from my office window, heart pounding as the same journalist who doubted me hours ago now demanded interviews with the Grays. My phone buzzed nonstop. Supporters flooded in, women, single mothers, survivors of family estrangement, people who saw themselves in my story. For the first time in years, the truth didn't feel like a burden. It felt like power. But power has consequences. That evening, as the foundation gala preparations continued, a message appeared on my private line. "Meet me. 1 hour, no press. Tyler." My hands shook as I read it. Nolan warned against it, but I couldn't ignore the ghost of my past knocking at the door. I met him in a quiet cafe on the edge of downtown. Time had not been kind to him. His once boyish charm was buried under wrinkles and regret. "You look good," he said awkwardly. "I see your parents found you." I didn't sit. "Cut to it, Tyler. How much did they pay you?" He sighed, running through a thinning hair. "Enough to pay my debts, but I didn't know they'd go this far." I laughed, bitter. "You didn't know? You vanished when I needed you most. You left me to die." His eyes flicked with shame. "I thought I was helping you by staying away. Your parents said—" "Stop," I snapped. "You don't get to rewrite this. You sold me then, and you're selling me now." He looked up, eyes pleading. "They're desperate, Aurora. Their company's weeks from collapse. They wanted your son to front a medical charity under their name. They said it would heal the family image." The words felt like acid. They were using my son as a prop. "Why are you telling me this now?" I demanded. He hesitated, then slid a flash drive across the table. "Because they're planning to leak your adoption records, the original ones, before Agatha changed your identity. They think it'll ruin you." I froze, my fingers hovering over the drive. That would destroy everything. My credibility, my privacy, the foundation's reputation. It would all unravel. "How did they get those?" I asked. He looked terrified. "They hacked into court archives. They have people everywhere." My throat tightened. "Why are you helping me?" He gave a weary smile. "Because I owe you, and because they think I'm too drunk to remember where the real files are. But I kept them safe." I stood, sliding the flash drive into my coat pocket. "If you're lying, I'll bury you with them." He didn't argue. As I walked out, rain pouring down, I knew the war had reached its peak. They were going to destroy me publicly, unless I moved first. Nolan and I spent the night decrypting the flash drive. Inside were emails, not just between my parents and Tyler, but with journalists, investors, even politicians, people they'd bribed to protect their empire. The file was nuclear. "We release this and we take down everyone connected to them," Nolan warned. I looked at the screen, at the names that once seemed untouchable. "Then let them fall," I said. He hesitated. This could drag Everest into it. My chest tightened. That was my only fear. My son had worked so hard to build his own name. But if we didn't act, they'd use him anyway. "We'll control the narrative," I said. "We'll go public at the gala, Agatha's anniversary celebration. It'll be broadcast live. We'll do it there." Nolan stared at me, then nodded. "You're your mother's daughter," he said, softly. "No," I replied. "I'm Agatha's." The next days passed in a blur of rehearsals, meetings, and silent dread. Everest sensed something was wrong, but didn't push. "You've been distracted, Mom," he said one night, standing in the doorway of my office. "Is it about those people?" I looked up from the documents, studying his face, so much like the boy I used to dream he'd be, safe and proud. "It's about protecting what we built," I said. "That's all." He frowned. "From who?" I smiled faintly. "From the kind of people who think love is something you can buy." He didn't ask again, but I saw the worry in his eyes. The night of the gala, a foundation hall glowed like a cathedral of glass and gold. Reporters filled the space, cameras flashing, guests in shimmering gowns raising glasses to Agatha's memory. I wore her sapphire brooch, the one she said was for courage. As Everest took the stage to deliver his speech, pride swelled in my chest. He spoke about second chances, about compassion, about the power of those who choose to love without conditions. My parents were watching from the balcony. I could feel their presence like static in the air. They'd come dressed for redemption, pretending to be part of the celebration. I let them have their moment, because when it ended, everything they built would collapse. When Everest finished, I stepped forward, applause still echoing. "Before we close tonight," I said into the microphone, "there's something I need to share, a truth long overdue." The room hushed. I could see my mother's smile tighten, her hand grip my father's arm. For years, this foundation has stood for honesty, for strength born from struggle. But tonight, I learned that those who claim to love us sometimes use that love as a weapon. I gestured to the screen behind me. Images flashed, contracts, payments, secret emails, even the photo of Tyler shaking hands with my father. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "These," I continued, "are the actions of people who believed they could rewrite history. They called it family. I call it fraud." My voice trembled but didn't break. "This is for every child who was told they were not enough, for every mother who had to fight alone. We are not our parents' mistakes. We are our own redemption." The hall erupted, half applause, half chaos. My parents stood frozen, faces drained of color. Security began moving toward them, press swarming, microphones thrust forward. Nolan signaled from the side, giving me a nod. It was done. The evidence had been sent to federal investigators, every file backed up and verified. The Gray's empire was over. But even as victory pulsed through me, I felt something colder, inevitability. Because people like them never surrendered quietly. And as the crowd roared and the lights flashed, I caught a glimpse of movement in the balcony. My father whispering into his phone, his eyes locked on me. He wasn't leaving. He was planning something worse. And when I saw who walked in through the side entrance moments later, my blood froze. It was Everest, pale, confused, holding a folded newspaper with our faces on the front page and a headline that made my world tilt. "Aurora Beaumont's true identity exposed, the lost Gray heiress." The applause was still echoing through the marble halls when I caught sight of the two faces I'd once sworn I would never see again. My parents stood at the edge of the gala ballroom like ghosts from a grave I'd already buried, their smiles stretched too wide, too artificial, too rehearsed. For a heartbeat, my breath locked in my chest, and the sound of clinking glasses blurred into a dull roar. I'd spent nearly 27 years building a life that erased every trace of Caitlin Gray, the girl they'd thrown out with her unborn child. Yet here they were, backlit by chandeliers, wearing the same smug entitlement that had once broken me. I watched them scanning the crowd until their eyes found mine, and that's when my stomach turned to ice. They didn't come for me. Their gaze slid past me toward Everest, who was standing on stage beside the foundation banner, shaking hands with the medical director who just announced his name to thunderous applause. My parents hadn't changed at all. They had simply found a new angle of profit. The moment my son's name began trending after his groundbreaking surgery, they must have scented opportunity like blood in the water. If you're enjoying this, please subscribe and share. Your support keeps the stories coming. I felt Nolan's steadying hand on my back as he leaned close and murmured, "They're here for a reason, Aurora. Don't let them see a single crack." I nodded, though my pulse was hammering in my throat. They approached slowly, cutting through the crowd like actors approaching a spotlight. "Caitlin?" my mother breathed, her voice drenched in fake warmth that nearly made me laugh. No one called me that anymore. "It's Aurora now," I said evenly, each syllable deliberate. "You forfeited the right to use that name 29 years ago." Her smile trembled, but my father stepped forward with practiced confidence, the kind that used to make boardrooms nod along. "We came to congratulate you and Everest," he said. "The family's proud." "Which family?" I asked. The question landed like glass breaking between us. For a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes, a sliver of guilt quickly swallowed by calculation. They started spinning tales about forgiveness, redemption, reunion. I let them talk, watching their lips move, cataloging every lie. Then, like a blade hidden in velvet, my father dropped it. "Gray and Fox is in a bit of a transition," he said casually. "We thought maybe the family could stand together publicly. It would help everyone." There it was, the real reason. Their company was drowning in federal investigations, and their prodigal daughter with her miracle-working son made the perfect lifeboat. Before I could respond, Everest appeared beside me, his presence calm and solid. "You must be the grandparents," he said politely, though his jaw tightened. My mother's eyes gleamed with hunger as she reached to touch his arm. "You have your father's eyes." The words sliced through the air like poison, and for the first time in years, I felt the echo of 17 again, barefoot, terrified, standing outside that locked front door in the rain. I drew a slow breath and smiled, because power is quieter when it's real. "Everest," I said softly, "these are the people who disowned me when they found out you existed." The surrounding guests froze mid-sip. My father's face drained of color, her mother's lips parted in a trembling gasp. For a moment, the entire ballroom fell silent, except for the soft thrum of the string quartet in the distance. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Truth, spoken calmly, is louder than any scream. My father tried to recover, muttering something about misunderstandings, but Nolan appeared with a folder, the very one I'd instructed him to bring. Inside were copies of the adoption records, the legal filings, even the signed testimony from Tyler, Everest's biological father, admitting his role in their blackmail scheme. "You wanted a reunion?" Nolan said. "Here's what that looks like." My mother's hand trembled as she reached for the papers, but I stopped her. "Don't touch anything that doesn't belong to you." Cameras flashed from somewhere near the staircase, reporters, guests, socialites hungry for drama. It was poetic justice. For years, they'd paraded their morality through charity galas, while I raised my son alone. Now, the truth was on display in their own language, reputation. My father's voice cracked as he hissed, "You'll regret this." "I already did," I replied, and turned my back to them. As I walked away, I felt Everest's hand brush mine, grounding me in the present, the life I'd built, the name I'd earned. I thought it was over, but the next morning, the headlines proved me wrong. Someone had leaked more than I expected. Private messages, payments, and Tyler's confession had gone viral. The Gray family was trending, not as philanthropists, but as manipulators who tried to exploit their disowned daughter's success. Gray and Fox stock plummeted overnight. Yet victory tasted hollow. That evening, while reviewing damage control with Nolan, I received a message, unsigned, but the words chilled me. "You may have won the crowd, but family secrets don't stay buried forever." I reread it twice, my fingers trembling just slightly before I set the phone down. I thought I'd cut every string connecting me to Caitlin Gray, but maybe something or someone was still pulling from the shadows.